You're sitting there, and the silence is louder than any goodbye. No words, no explanation, just the echo of someone who once made you feel seen, vanishing into nothing. They ghosted you. No closure, no warning, just absence. And that absence, it doesn't come empty-handed. It arrives with a question that sits in your chest like a stone. What did I do wrong? It wraps itself around your ribs, tight and quiet, whispering, if I were enough, they would have stayed. But let's breathe for a second, gently, not with the mind, with the body. Place your hand on your heart, just for a moment. Feel the pulse, the warmth, the life that never left. Now feel this truth with me, that silence wasn't random. It wasn't cruel fate. It was a mirror, and I know, mirrors don't hurt until they show you what you were not ready to see. The absence wasn't new, it just reawakened something ancient. Something that began long before this person disappeared. The wound didn't start here. It started in a place where words hadn't formed yet, in a place of silent hopes and invisible expectations. And yet, you're here, looking at that silence, feeling it crawl beneath your skin, trying to make sense of a vanishing that left no map behind. But what if the map isn't lost? What if the map is inside you, and the moment they disappeared was the moment you were invited to read it? Neville Goddard once said, "The world outside is not cause, it is reflection." And Joe Dispenza reminded us that every repeated emotion becomes an electromagnetic signature. So maybe it's not about what they did. Maybe it's about what was activated. Maybe this isn't abandonment. Maybe it's a revelation, not of who they are, but of who you still believe you are. And before we try to fix the pain, or run from it, or explain it, we need to understand why this kind of pain repeats, why it keeps knocking on the same door inside us again and again, even when the faces change. Let's go there now. Let's walk into the place where the first echo began. There's a quiet space in the body that doesn't speak in words, only in patterns. It's not loud, but it's persistent, like a cold draft through a cracked window you didn't know was there. This space is shaped by absences, not just recent ones, the early ones. The ones that happened when your nervous system was still learning the difference between love and survival. And if, as a child, you felt unseen, if affection came with tension, if presence was earned rather than given, something in you learned to expect absence as a form of love. It's not your fault. You didn't choose it, but it stayed, like a quiet frequency pulsing beneath every relationship. So when someone disappears now, it doesn't just hurt in the present. It reactivates the echo of an old truth you never agreed to but somehow carry. They always leave. I'm not worth staying for. This belief doesn't shout. It hums. It hums beneath your smile. It hums when you text too quickly. It hums when you start falling for someone and immediately prepare for them to vanish. Neville said the outer world reflects the inner state. So if abandonment keeps knocking, it's not because the universe wants to punish you. It's because it wants to show you where you still abandon yourself, where your love still waits for permission. And here's something tender to understand. The frequency of emotional hunger doesn't attract nourishment, it attracts more hunger. Because that energy doesn't say, I am love. It says, prove that I'm worthy. And energy responds, always, not to what you want, but to what you are still vibrating. And the more you want someone to stay, just to feel okay, the more you create conditions that push them away. But this isn't the end of the story. Because once you see this pattern, once you truly feel it, there's a soft crack in the cycle. A place where something new can begin. Still, even knowing this, most of us fall into the same reflex. We try to understand what the other person was thinking. We replay their behavior like detectives. We search for meaning in their silence. But what if that search is the very thing keeping you from healing? Let's explore that. When someone vanishes, the silence they leave behind isn't just empty, it's loud. And in that loudness, your mind begins to whisper questions. Why did they leave? What did I miss? Did I say too much or not enough? The brain, brilliant and relentless, rushes in to build a timeline, to piece together meaning, to protect you from chaos by turning pain into logic. But here's the truth. The most profound heartbreaks don't have clean endings, because they weren't about the other person in the first place. They were about an invisible resonance, something old meeting something now, something internal being activated by something external. And the more you try to decode the mystery of them, the further you drift from the message inside you. It's not about why they disappeared. It's about what version of you believed they were the answer. It's about who you were when you let them in, and who you hoped to become through their presence. The analytical mind, trained to protect, will insist, figure it out, and you'll be safe next time. But healing doesn't happen through answers. It happens through energy. You can dissect every word they said, replay every glance, study every silence, and still be lost. Because pain doesn't live in the story. It lives in the vibration beneath it. That's why the search for understanding can sometimes be a form of resistance. Not because you're wrong to want clarity, but because the clarity you seek can't be spoken. It has to be felt, fully, without turning it into a case file. So the real question isn't, why did they do this? It's softer and scarier. What part of me believed this was love? What frequency in me called this in? That's where the shift begins. Not with closure from them, but with courage in you. But even after the mind gets quiet, another force can take over, the imagination. And that can be even more dangerous than the questions. Because when the heart is wounded, the mind doesn't just search for answers, it starts creating scenes. Let's talk about that. There's a place the mind goes when it's not given answers. It begins to invent them, not always on purpose, but as a survival instinct. You start having conversations that never happened. You replay what you would have said if you had the chance. You hear their voice in your head, not soothing you, but accusing you. You imagine them happy without you, loving someone else, forgetting you like you were nothing more than a brief interruption, and slowly, the heartbreak becomes a loop. Not because of what they did, but because of what you're still doing with the memory of them. Neville Goddard spoke of imagination as the sacred womb, the place where all reality is conceived. Every image you hold with emotion becomes a seed, a vibration, a magnetic field. So when you imagine from your wounds, you're not just remembering pain, you're recreating it, reinforcing it, rebroadcasting it into the field of your life. And the universe, neutral and responsive, echoes back exactly what you've been rehearsing internally. You might not even realize how often you're doing it. Those silent dialogues in the shower, those invisible arguments as you fall asleep, those flashes of them showing up just to hurt you again. Each one is a signal, each one is a frequency, each one is a scene. Your nervous system begins to memorize as if it were real. And this is the part that stings. The more you imagine rejection, the more you magnetize it. But if your imagination has the power to repeat pain, then it also holds the power to rewrite it. Not to pretend it didn't happen, but to transmute the energy that still binds you to it. So what if instead of being trapped inside the story, you could gently enter that memory and open a new ending? What if the same mind that looped you into pain could become the place where your healing begins? Let's step into that space now, quietly, tenderly. Let's go to the place where your inner vision becomes a portal for release. Close your eyes, not as a gesture of escape, but as an entryway. This is not about forgetting what happened. It's about meeting what happened, again. But this time, with a different presence. In the quiet theater of your mind, the scene begins. There you are in that moment. The moment they left. The moment you felt the ground disappear beneath you. But now, something is different. You're not frozen. You're not powerless. You are both witness and weaver. See yourself speaking not from fear, but from wholeness. See the other person listening, not with distance, but with softness. And maybe, just maybe, see them offering you the closure they never gave. Or, better yet, see yourself no longer needing it. This is not about rewriting the truth. It's about shifting the energy that lives inside it. Because your nervous system doesn't care if it's real or remembered. It responds to imagery, to emotion, to intention. As Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches, the brain doesn't know the difference between an actual experience and one vividly imagined. So when you return to the memory, with new emotion, with compassion instead of panic, with sovereignty instead of shame, you begin to reshape the neurological pathways that hold that pain in place. And when done gently, repeatedly, like watering a small plant, the story starts to soften. The charge begins to lift. The body loosens its grip. You're not erasing the past. You're transforming its echo. Before sleep, for 7 nights, or however long your soul needs, you revisit this sacred inner space. And each time, you choose a new ending, not for their sake, but for the freedom of your field. Because when the internal scene shifts, the external world can't help but respond. Still, even after shifting the inner script, there may be a lingering ache, a question. Why didn't they come back? Why am I still invisible to them? And maybe the answer isn't about them at all. Maybe it's about the echo that still lives in the space where your voice once asked to be loved. Let's listen to that echo together. Imagine standing alone in a vast desert. The air is still, the sun hangs heavy. There is no one around, just you, and the sound of your own voice. And in that emptiness, you call out, not with words, but with energy, a deep, aching frequency that says, please, prove that I matter. Show me I'm lovable. Stay. And from the canyon walls of the universe, an echo returns, not with comfort, but with silence, with distance, with someone vanishing. This is not punishment. This is not cruelty. This is reflection. The echo didn't betray you. It responded honestly to what was sent, not to the part of you that hoped, but to the part that doubted, to the vibration beneath the words, to the signal of self-abandonment still living in your nervous system. This is the mystery of energy. We don't attract what we want. We attract what we believe we are allowed to receive. The person who ignored you didn't create your wound. They revealed it. They activated the part of you still waiting to feel chosen, still chasing the echo of a question you've been asking since long before they arrived. And maybe that desert isn't a punishment. Maybe it's sacred ground, a place of initiation, a place where everything you once were gets stripped away, until only the truth remains. Because deserts are not lifeless, they are quiet, yes, but beneath the sand, beneath the silence, there are seeds waiting for water, oases hidden just beyond the heat, revelations that come only when you stop running and begin to listen. So what if the echo wasn't an answer from the outside, but a message from the inside? What if that emptiness was never about them, but about your own call for wholeness? And if that's true, then the next step isn't finding them, it's forgiving them. Not for their sake, but because you're ready to stop echoing what no longer belongs in your field. Let's move toward that now, slowly, as if wiping dust from an old mirror, to finally see yourself clearly again. There comes a moment in the healing process that doesn't arrive with a grand revelation. It arrives quietly like a soft breeze through a room you forgot had windows. And in that breeze, something shifts. Not because you finally understood why they left, not because they apologized, but because your heart is tired of carrying what never belonged to it. Forgiveness, in this light, isn't about excusing their behavior. It's not about pretending it didn't hurt. It's about cleansing the residue, because every thought you still direct toward them, every emotion that still loops back to the wound, is energy, caught in orbit, energy that could be yours again, to create, to breathe, to feel joy without flinching. Forgiveness is not for the one who vanished, it's for the one who remained, you, the one still here, still listening, still healing. There is something deeply powerful in releasing what no longer feeds your spirit, in letting go of the weight of waiting, in writing down the words you never said, not to send, but to set free. And when you release it, maybe in flame, maybe in water, maybe only in breath, you are not erasing the story, you are ending the loop. You are returning to your own timeline. You are whispering to your field, I no longer need pain to remember who I am. I no longer seek proof of my worth in someone else's absence. I forgive, not to forget, but to reclaim my frequency. And in that reclamation, something subtle begins to unfold, something beyond healing, something sacred, because once you stop trying to rewrite the past, you begin to hear the present calling, and it speaks not in the voice of the one who left, but in the quiet presence of the one who never did, yourself. And in that space, something ancient awakens. Not a wound, but a calling. Let's listen to that together. Let's walk into the part of the story that began the moment they disappeared, but was never really about them at all. Sometimes, the loudest shift in your life begins with someone leaving, not with fireworks, not with closure, but with silence. And in that silence, something opens, not outside of you, but deep within, like a sealed door in your chest slowly creaking open, revealing a space you didn't know existed. Or maybe, a space you've always avoided. At first, all you feel is the ache, the missing, the emptiness. But beneath that, quietly, another frequency rises, the frequency of return. Not their return, yours. Their absence didn't break you. It cracked the shell of an identity you were never meant to hold on to. The identity that needed to be chosen in order to feel whole. The version of you that believed love was something to earn, not something you already are. Greg Braden teaches that the human heart emits the strongest electromagnetic field of the body, and when it contracts in grief, it's not because it's broken, it's because it's trying to reconfigure, to pulse in truth. So when that person walked away, yes, a part of you mourned, but another part, the deeper, quieter part, awakened. The part that remembers, I am not the one who was left. I am the one who remained, and the one who remains is the one who returns to truth. There is power in losing what was never fully yours, because it clears space, and in that space, your soul steps forward, not with drama, but with direction, with softness that doesn't beg, and strength that doesn't shout. This is what spiritual realignment often looks like, not lightning bolts, but people fading out of your life so that your own frequency can rise without interference. You didn't lose them. You outgrew what their presence mirrored in you, and in that space, you begin to pulse differently, to breathe differently, to ask different questions. But what happens when your body still holds the imprint of abandonment? When your cells still remember the ache, even after your mind understands? Let's enter that final doorway now, where biology meets belief, and where the deepest healing begins. There's something the body knows before the mind does. A silent truth stored in muscle and marrow, in the way your shoulders tighten when you expect to be let down, in the way your breath shortens before you even realize you're holding it. Bruce Lipton teaches that chronic rejection doesn't just hurt, it reshapes biology. Over time, it changes how your cells receive connection, how your nervous system anticipates love, how your heart prepares for absence, even before it arrives. So when we speak of healing abandonment, we're not only speaking of emotion, we're speaking of chemistry, of vibration, of deep spiritual architecture. Because healing isn't just a feeling, it's a frequency. And that's what this entire journey has been, not about someone disappearing, but about someone appearing. You, the one who stayed, the one who woke up through the ache, the one who, even in the silence, never left yourself entirely. Their absence was never a punishment. It was a revelation, a sacred realignment, a clearing of space so your soul could step fully into the room. And maybe the truth is this: some people don't vanish to hurt you. They vanish because the part of you that needed them no longer exists. So now feel the shift, not in your thoughts, in your breath, in the space you've made within. Feel it whisper, I am not defined by who stayed or left. I am defined by the frequency I choose to live from. And as that frequency rises, soft and steady, you don't need to chase, you don't need to prove, you don't need to be chosen, because you already are. And maybe now, you'll walk into rooms without needing to be seen, because you're finally seeing yourself. And maybe now, you'll stop echoing the old question and start radiating the answer. If something in you softened, opened, or remembered, you didn't just listen, you returned. This isn't something to learn, it's something to carry. Now tell me, what did this silence teach you?